Good evening and welcome to Poland Daily. I'm Nicholas Richardson and this is the news. The Internal Security Agency has smashed a spy network operating on behalf of the Russian secret services. 9 people have been detained. Interior Minister Mariusz Kamiński said that agents of foreign services had conducted intelligence activities against Poland and had prepared diversionary acts. According to investigators, the network of agents carried out intelligence activities involving monitoring rail routes and detailed analysis of arms shipments going to Ukraine. The detainees are foreigners from across the eastern border. The court applied temporary arrest to 6 of them. The prosecutor's officers brought charges of espionage for Russia and participation in an organised crime group. In addition, prosecutorial actions are pending against 3 of the detainees. The suspects were preparing for diversionary actions within Poland. Their goal was to paralyse the supply of equipment, weapons and aid to Ukraine. I would like to emphasise the great success that the officers of the internal security agencies have achieved, as this entire spy network has been unravelled. This is proof that the Polish services work very efficiently to protect our country. The officers of the internal security agency secured cameras, electronic equipment and GPS transmitters. They were to be mounted on vehicles transporting humanitarian and military aid to Ukraine and also in the area of critical infrastructure. This shows that the Russians are not giving up on the active reconnaissance of our territory, and this is directly related to waging war against Ukraine. This makes us realise how important intelligence activities are to remain vigilant. Foreign intelligence agents also carried out activities aimed at destabilising Polish-Ukrainian relations. They were to arouse and foment hostile public sentiment in Poland against NATO countries and the Polish government's policy on Ukraine. Chaos, which is precisely supposed to lead to this decision-making paralysis, to the fact that there is even an atmosphere of fear in Poland. After all, this is the weapon that the Russians, formerly the Soviets, use effectively. Even before the Russian aggression against Ukraine, the Kremlin was attempting to destabilise Poland. In 2021, a few months before the outbreak of the war, tens of thousands of people tried to cross the Polish-Belarusian border. Civic platform MEP Janina Ochojska accused Polish foresters of burying migrants in mass graves in forests near the Belarusian border. It is difficult really to comment using rational wording on the nonsense that Ms. Ochojska said here. And I will say more. It was also confirmed by foreign services. They dealt with it. We are being set as a model at the moment. Most of the humanitarian and armed support for embattled Ukraine over the last year has been transported through the Lublin and Subcarpathian provinces. Every day, up to a dozen transport planes land at the Jasionka airport near Rzeszów. These are critical moments because the Ukrainian army is preparing for a counter-offensive. Equipment deliveries are now very important and, of course, it will be advantageous for the Russians to try to destabilise these deliveries. The ABW has evidence that the detained agents received remuneration from the Russian secret services. The case is developing and counterintelligence activities are still underway. After the TVN24 report in which St. John Paul II was accused of covering up paedophilia among the clergy, many groups became involved in defending the Holy Father's good name. In turn, a poll was published today, which the vast majority of respondents answered yes to the question, is Pope John Paul II a figure of authority for you? Definitely yes and rather yes were the answers given by 70% of respondents. The opposite opinion was held by 21% of those surveyed. In contrast, 9% of those asked had no opinion on the subject. On the one hand, we have, especially in the youngest generation, a great many people for whom the Pope is perhaps a little unreal, a little funny main character. That said, not all of Polish society understands or thinks this way. Gazeta Polska clubs are defending the good name of St. John Paul II. Billboards in solidarity with the Pope, prepared by Gazeta Polska, can be found all over Poland. Meanwhile, on the 2nd of April, on the 18th anniversary of the Holy Father's death, a papal march will pass through the streets of Warsaw. Participants in the patriotic demonstration will march from under the Dąbrowskiego roundabout to the Archcathedral Basilica of St. John the Baptist in Warsaw, where a Mass will be celebrated. I would like to sincerely encourage all of us to stand shoulder to shoulder together, as we did then in 1979, as we did in 1983 or 1987 during these pilgrimages, and to the enemies of our homeland, the enemies of the faith, the enemies of the Holy Father, respond with prayer and support for the memory of the Holy Father.
odpowiedzieli modlitwą i wsparciem dla pamięci Ojca Świętego.
Meanwhile, the weekly Nie, founded by the Goebbels of martial law, Jerzy Urban, has posted a graphic on its cover slandering the Pope and insulting Catholics. As a result, PKN Orlen CEO Daniel Obajtek has decided to remove this edition of the newspaper from the shelves of Orlen's gas stations. I have made the decision to withdraw from all Orlen outlets the new edition of the weekly Nie, whose cover crosses all boundaries. We have room for all newspaper titles, but there is no room for hate speech and the destruction of the authority of St. John Paul II. The public debate over John Paul II's alleged cover-up of paedophilia in the Church began after the broadcast of the TVN24 report Franciscan III. Accusations against the Holy Father were also included in the book Maxima Culpa, John Paul II Anew by Eck Overbeek. Historians and publicists criticise both publications for manipulation and mishandling of the Security Service archives.
Kampania polityczna, moim zdaniem, serwowana.
The political campaign, in my opinion, served so close from the Kremlin. I think also through agents based in Brussels and Germany, and of course, those who are supposed to perform today on Polish territory. Last week, with the votes of the Law and Justice and the Polish People's Party, a resolution was passed defending the good name of St. John Paul II. The left was against it, while the Civic Coalition deputies did not vote. Earlier today, newly inaugurated Czech President Petr Pavel visited Warsaw for talks with his Polish counterpart, President Andrzej Duda.
We also talked about cooperation within the framework of the Bucharest Nine. We spoke with the president. The president has a lot of experience in security matters, especially military security. So the upcoming NATO summit in Vilnius, what we would like to get from this summit also in terms of strengthening NATO's eastern flank. All of this also in the context of Ukraine. The Czech Republic and Poland, these are the countries that are in the absolute vanguard when it comes to support for Ukraine. As a first step, literally in the next few days, we are actually transferring, as far as I remember, 4 aircraft to Ukraine in full operation. The remaining aircraft are being serviced and prepared at the moment, and will probably be handed over gradually. I very much appreciate that cooperation between our countries is at such a high level. Recent experiences have made us see the value of cooperation with our neighbors, with our friends. We realize how much potential and resources our part of Europe has. Perhaps it is only now, because of the war in Ukraine and the risk of expanding the conflict, that we have realized this fully. The trip to Poland is Pavel's second international visit as president, after visiting neighboring Slovakia on Monday, March 13th. The visit came as Duda announced Poland would send 4 MiG-29 fighter jets to Ukraine in the coming days, becoming one of the first of Kyiv's allies to provide such aircraft. Both Poland and Czech Republic have been among Ukraine's staunchest supporters, supplying heavy weapons and military equipment, including tanks and artillery. Pavel, a former Czech army chief and high-level NATO official, started his 5-year term as Czech president a week ago with pledges to keep helping Ukraine and support painful economic policies.
The Pentagon has released a video which was said to show a Russian military jet coming very close to a United States military drone, dumping fuel near it and damaging the drone's propeller. The declassified video, which is about 40 seconds long, has been edited by the United States military for length, but shows events in a sequential order, the Pentagon said. In the first direct US-Russian incident since the Ukraine war began, a Russian Su-27 jet struck the propeller of the unarmed MQ-9 drone on Tuesday, making it inoperable, the Pentagon said, worsening already tense relations between Washington and Moscow. Russia's defense ministry blamed sharp maneuvering by the drone for the crash and said its jet did not make contact. The top US general said on Wednesday that the drone probably broke apart and would be difficult to recover given the depth of water in the area of the Black Sea where it went down. Russia said it would try to retrieve the remains of the drone but appeared to acknowledge the challenges. Earlier on Wednesday, US State Department spokesperson Ned Price said the incident was likely unintentional. That's it. Thank you for watching. Stay with us for the weather, Poland Daily Business and more programmes. But from me, it's have a good night and a better tomorrow.